Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this, an update to a story we talked about in my previous video. Unbeaten up-and-comer Johanna Wonyou was intended to face former champion Rivas in what was a WBA final eliminator. Now, it has been moved to next month at the York Hall.
Wasn't this fight supposed to have happened already?
It was, but the broadcast team said it was postponed due to illness, not mentioning who was it that got ill. Was it Johanna? Was it Mayerline? I suppose it doesn't matter now that the fight has been rescheduled, and I still have Johanna winning it. Johanna Wonyou, who sports an unblemished record of 11 wins with no losses, no draws, 2 knockouts. To the former champion Mayerline Rivas, who sports a professional record of 17 wins with 6 losses, 3 draws, 11 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 26 professional bouts, the so obviously more experienced fighter of the two. But like I always say, there is such a thing as having too much experience. At 37 years old, coming off of 2 consecutive losses, it's safe to say that Mayerline Rivas is on the back 9. And I can't trust those 37-year-old legs to keep her out of trouble and out of harm's way once Johanna Wonyou gets going. Johanna Wonyou, who was last in action in September of last year, she fought 2 times last year, once in March, then again in September, and this upcoming fight in May will be her very first fight of this year. I anticipate she's going to win it. I anticipate she will become the mandatory challenger to the WBA title. In light of this, I wonder what's going to come first. A mandated fight between Johanna Wonyou and Nazarena Romero, or a unification match. That if Nazarena beats Mayeli Flores, stays WBA champion, does she go right into a fight with Johanna, or a unification match with the winner of Scottney versus Mercado that I anticipate is going to be Ellie Scottney? Either way, things are heating up in the super bantamweight division, and things are shaking, rattling, and rolling. Men's welterweight news, an update to a story I talked about a few days ago. According to 210 Boxing TV, shocking news, 210 Boxing TV is reporting that Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios for the WBC welterweight title is a done deal for the summer, July 19th or the 26th. Dates are being mentioned for the long-rumored fight, and it's finally a reality. It will be on Amazon Prime, and get this, not on pay-per-view, in Vegas or San Antonio. That's the twist. The entire time this has been a conversation, I figured they'd build this as a pay-per-view. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't, because you figure that if Manny Pacquiao is still hanging around at 46 years old, it's to make the most money that he can make. And if they're not billing this as a box office fight, where is the money to pay Manny coming from? What does Manny Pacquiao stand to make boxing Mario Barrios if this is not a pay-per-view? This is preliminary news. The details could always change once the fight is officially announced, but like I said, it is surprising. Now, we've been hearing about this fight ever since Mario Barrios became champion. After Terence Crawford dropped the WBC title, moved up to junior middle, and Mario was elevated to full WBC champion, Manny's had his eyes on him for obvious reasons. That even though Mario is the younger man by many, many years, he's not on the same level as Manny Pacquiao. He's not on the same level as many of his contemporaries. He's the weakest link and the most beatable champion at 147 pounds. Manny Pacquiao's best bet to see himself crowned the oldest world champion in boxing today. It's really the only appeal of this fight, whether or not Manny Pacquiao still has enough left in the tank that he can beat a Mario Barrios. And I know the World Boxing Council won't have any aversions to Manny getting this opportunity.
They're not gonna stop him. They're not gonna stand in the way.
And if they are really doing this, I don't figure they're going to put any pressure on Mario Barrios to satisfy his mandatory challenger, the winner of the upcoming Sissoko versus Kavaliauskas fight.
They're not gonna put pressure on him the same way they put pressure on Dmitry Bivol so soon after having become undisputed champion, already bogging him down with a mandatory. They're not gonna do that to Mario.
Or Manny if he wins. I think they're going to keep the way clear to allow this contest to happen if it does happen.
So it's not a pay-per-view, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you could say that, but I'm not actually interested in seeing a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao vying for alphabet titles because God forbid that he wins, he's not going to unify with Boots. He's not going to unify with Brian Norman.
Manny Pacquiao is a very accomplished fighter, one of the most recognizable in the sport, but a not-so-recognizable statistic when it comes to Manny is throughout his entire career, he never had a unification match. He never held more than one alphabet title at the same time, and I don't think that's about to change at 46 years old.
If he gets his hands on a belt, all that's going to do to the welterweight division is create a lot of gridlock because suddenly he's going to become the most sought-after fighter at the weight for being 46 years old, for seeming like low-hanging fruit to all the welterweights that are there. Guys like Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo, if and when he moves up.
I don't like the idea that a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao may procure an alphabet title. It's not good for the division.
PBC seems to be working hard to put together a busier schedule this calendar year than what we saw in the last one, even if it means dusting off these retired fighters, these quasi-retired fighters and old men.
As you can see, I'm not excited. But I'll take it in, so long as it's not a pay-per-view, and if there isn't anything else on that night, anything better, I'll watch it.
But I am not excited.
The niggas
Yeah,
are
you're right.
bum.
All right, so you
niggas
fighting
are
a bum.
bum.
All right, so you fighting a
You
bum.
a
What the fuck is
bum.
you talking about?
You a
What the
bum.
fuck is you talking about, bro?
You a
Shut
bum.
up. Like,
Nigga,
shut
you a
up. Shut
bum.
up.
You
bro.
want to be
Shut
black
up.
so bad.
Shut
You want to
like
be black
what?
so bad.
Yo, there's something. I don't know, guys.
I can't
You know
wait for
me.
May 31st.
You know me. You know
I
how
know
I'm
you.
coming. You know how I'm coming.
Bro, you guys are both on, you guys are going to
Nigga,
collide.
talk, hey, pop that shit when I see you, nigga.
You know. Well, I'm excited to see both of you guys. Jamal, final question. Your prediction for May 31st against Thomas Lamanna.
Fuck me.
Thomas,
That was we obviously knew that was coming. Like what he just said it. Yeah, man, we're gonna shock the world. We're gonna shock the world.
Jamal and Thomas, thank you so much. I can't wait for this one. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, May
I'm not
31st, BBC Championship Boxing on Prime Video. Jamal Thomas, will see you in a couple of weeks in Los Angeles for the in-person press conference and then during fight week in Las Vegas. Thank
Yeah,
you.
make
Thank
sure
y'all for wasting
you
my time.
show up. Make sure you show
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Make
shut
sure
up,
you
bitch.
show up.
But
Make sure
you
you
not
show
even
up.
get the fight. Shut
Yeah,
up,
make
bitch.
sure you show up.
Shut up, bitch.
Make
You
sure
on
you
my
show up.
You on
Make
my
sure you
card.
show up.
You on my
Make sure you
card,
show
bitch.
up.
Shut up.
Make sure you
Thank
show
you very
up.
much,
Shut up,
gentlemen.
bitch. I'm gonna knock your ass out.
Bitch, shut up, bitch. Shut up.
Appreciate it. Let's turn our
Shut up.
They held a Zoom press conference for the upcoming Jermall Charlo versus Cornflake Lamanna fight. Not an actual press conference.
So they're still doing conference calls like it's 5 years ago and we're under lockdown.
And you can see what Jermall Charlo thinks about Cornflake Lamanna. He thinks he's a bum, which begs the question, then why are you fighting him? Why aren't you fighting someone better?
Because he's been out of the ring for over a year, hasn't seen action since November of 2023, sat out all of 2024, and he needs a tune-up fight. He needs a rebound fight. That's what Cornflake Lamanna is.
We've already seen him lose to Jorge Cata, Brian Mendoza, already saw him get knocked out by Erislandy Lara 2 or 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years later, it's the same with Jamal. Cornflake is a professional opponent. That's how he gets paid. Oddly enough, he's coming off a string of victories. Since having been knocked out by Lara in May of 2021, he's amassed 9 consecutive victories. 9. He's been more active than Jermall.
Though still not talented enough that I'd pick him to win.
The Jermall Charlo didn't land on this card by accident. It's by design. It's intended to be a prelude, build up to a Caleb Plant showdown later on this year. And Jermall, for what it's worth, was sounding like his old self there.
As opposed to the docile, drug-induced stupors we've been seeing him in the last few years, he seemed alert, he seemed aware, he seemed motivated.
So maybe if he goes in there and he beats Cornflake Lamanna in good fashion, that will lend itself to that Caleb Plant showdown, where Caleb, he's taking on Resendiz in the main event. If they both make it through their fights, they'll settle up with each other.
This is not a pay-per-view.
You get to see this as part of your regular Amazon subscription, though I anticipate that if and when Caleb and Jermall fight, that's going to be a pay-per-view. That's going to cost you.
So how bad do you want to see these two guys fight?
The rehabilitation of 2-division champion Jermall Charlo is in full swing, and one possible scenario is that if he beats Cornflake Lamanna and he beats Caleb Plant, he's back in the mix. He's back in the mix of everything. A potentiality we have to consider, that if he wins his next 2 fights, he's in line for bigger ones.
A Berlanga fight, a Munguia fight, a Mabili fight.
Don't lose sight of the fact that Jermall Charlo, in spite of being inactive the last few years, he's still an unbeaten fighter. He's still got his O. He's had some issues.
If he can battle through them, he's not too old to turn things around and fight in one or some decent-sized fights.
So long as he is willing to expand his horizons, because there's only so much the PBC has to offer him at this point. The biggest and best money is outside the PBC shores, off the island.
But you know, it's something to consider, that Jermall Charlo might come out all right from all of this.
He seemed more alert and more aware than I've seen him in years.
More spirited.
Well, let's see if that translates into how he performs. Elsewhere in the super middleweight division, ahead of the Berlanga versus Shiraz fight, the debate rages on as to whether or not it should be Edgar Berlanga's fight in the main event over Shakur Stevenson's fight with William Zepeda. If the caliber of the fight were judged by the world title at stake and the talent of the champion, then Shakur Stevenson's July 12th defense against Mexico's unbeaten knockout artist William Zepeda would be the main event. But it's not. Instead, the super middleweight non-title bout between recent title challengers Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz now stands as the headliner to a card that also includes a bout between WBC junior welterweight champion Alberto Puello and former title holder Subriel Matias, and the return of light heavyweight David Morrell against unbeaten Imam Katayev.
On Monday's episode of Pro Box TV's Boxing Scene Today, analysts Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi debated the alignment, with former welterweight champion Malignaggi initially contending, "You insult Stevenson a little bit," with the co-main event status.
Stevenson and top-ranked contender Zepeda have been negotiating to fight since last year, and after some social media squabbling towards Saudi Arabia's boxing financier, Turki El Al-Sheikh, over his earnings, Stevenson agreed to fight last week. On Saturday, El Al-Sheikh's company announced the Fuller card, headed by Berlanga, meeting recent Shiraz. Berlanga was defeated by Canelo Alvarez by UD in September, while Shiraz fought WBC middleweight champion Carlos Adames to a disputed draw on February 22nd in Saudi Arabia.
Berlanga appeals to New York's dedicated Puerto Rican boxing crowd, and Matias is also from Puerto Rico. Certain ethnicities bring the audience, and with Shiraz coming up in weight, fighting a big-name guy, I'm not mad about this fight, Algieri said on the show. Berlanga in the main event makes sense.
You know, it's the same thing I said. It's not how I would have structured the card, but I figured the reason they're doing it is because they know there's a large Puerto Rican contingent in the tri-state area, and they're hoping that Edgar can draw them out, especially since Shakur Stevenson's stock isn't on the up and up. Malignaggi, who mentioned he's heard rumblings that the bout may be staged in New York City's Central Park, said staging the bout on the weekend of New York's famed Puerto Rican Day Parade in June made more sense for a Berlanga headlining the bout. Turkey has a bias for Shiraz. We saw that in the corner when Al-Sheikh urged Shiraz on during the later rounds of the Adames fight. Maybe he's just trying to push Shiraz, Malignaggi said. But Algieri said with Berlanga and Matias on the bill, the two competitive bouts that sandwich Stevenson versus Zepeda provide the card with quality depth.
While Algieri argued that Pacquiao is a tough nut to crack, that Matias can be befuddled by footwork, Malignaggi countered, Matias knocks him out. I'll tell you right now. The pair agreed Zepeda's difficulty in his past two bouts against former junior lightweight champion Tevin Farmer has zapped some of the luster from the Stevenson matchup.
We've noticed with Zepeda, there may be a ceiling. There's a bit of kryptonite with a certain kind of boxing style, Malignaggi said. Since the Farmer fights, Zepeda comes stumbling into the fight. Maybe that's why it's not a main event. Shakur may be too good for his own good. After talking himself into it, Malignaggi said, "We're legitimizing Berlanga versus Shiraz as the main event." That said, both fighters are somewhat reeling from their recent losses. Berlanga returned for a walkover, first-round knockout win in March, and each needs to perform now. Berlanga is up against the perception. He's been comforted financially by fighting Alvarez, while Shiraz is battling the perception that he's not as good as the hype that accompanied him into the Adames bout. He recently switched trainers, joining Andy Lee. Berlanga touched the brass ring, and he likes it, Algieri said. A loss for Berlanga is debilitating. Berlanga loses, and he's soft, sleeping in silk sheets. The rebuild is tougher.
Malignaggi said that Shiraz is desperate too. Coming off what he classified as mentally a bad performance, you decided not to have the balls that night. Debating who should headline is a worthwhile talking point. There's so many question marks. You can't wait to see this Berlanga versus Shiraz fight between two hungry fighters. I've convinced myself.
I think it was veteran boxing scribe Mike Kopinger who said it best. Fans walked out in the middle of Shakur's last two main events, and it's a big surprise he's not closing the show in July?
A rhetorical question that carries a valid point.
So when Shakur Stevenson was over there at Top Rank, he was headlining his own shows with regularity, but you still had people saying that they weren't promoting him right. So that when he goes over to Turkey and ends up making more money than he was just making at Top Rank, now what they're harping about is that he's on an undercard. I don't see Shakur Stevenson complaining. I don't see him harping about it.
The money's real enough for him, and that's all he cares about.
So why should the order these fights happen in mean so much to the spectators?
What difference does it make to them? You see the placement of the card, when in the calendar year it's happening, and where. And it's very obvious why they've got Edgar in the main event.
No, it's not how I would have done it. I wouldn't encourage Edgar's prima donna behavior by having him headline this show, but it is strategic placement.
It's common sense that so many people these days are greatly lacking.
They're trying to appeal to a largely Puerto Rican audience. That's why there are two, technically three, Puerto Rican fighters on the bill. And unless Shakur is more in tune with those Puerto Ricans than Edgar is, then he doesn't need to be in the main event. And that's the bottom line.
Don't like it, don't watch it.
It's the bottom line. You guys complain too much.